Welcome. The show is What's Going On here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And today, we invite you to learn about virtual international collaborations that take place every semester at LaGuardia as part of the Collaborative Online International Learning, or COIL program. And you're going to learn about the program from the COIL Coordinator, Professor Olga Aksakalova of the English Department, Professor Kyoko Toyama of College Discovery and Modern Languages program, and Professor Olivera Stankovic of the Humanities Department's Communications Studies area. Welcome, ladies. Would you like to say hello?
Thank you. Hi, Hugo. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Some of you are on camera, some are not. I don't know what happened with Kyoko and Olivera, but
I can see them.
You can see them? Oh, I guess I
Yep.
don't. Okay, it's me again. It's always me. And I'm told by our technician slash station director, Dr. Riccio, who's in deep background, that she sees everybody as well. So maybe I'll get to see you ladies again. You want to take turns introducing yourselves, saying a little bit about yourselves, like your background and some of the things you've studied. Olga, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you again, Hugo, for having us. I'm really excited to be sharing our COIL work with the community. So I'm a faculty member in the English department. I'm an associate professor, and I've been at LaGuardia for 6 years now. My PhD is in English. I studied post-World War II American autobiography. I was looking at specifically how the surge of autobiographical writing that happened in this country in the 50s was not just an indication of the author's turn inward, as it was thought about before, but also a need to reconnect with the world post-World War II trauma. So that was my focus. But I put myself through grad school. I was teaching at a lot of different campuses, CUNY campuses mostly, and so I was teaching a lot of writing. And
Ignore the chat. Just keep going.
So, when I finished grad school, I really, I wanted to make a tangible difference. And when I got an offer to go to Moscow to start a bilingual writing program, I really could sort of capitalize on this writing teaching experience. And I started a bilingual writing program at a Moscow university, which was a terrific experience. And it really sort of created this global orientation for me. I started thinking a lot about how cultures interact, how to make writing pedagogy that is so widespread in the United States applicable to the Russian context without, imposing. So I was just really trying to create a dialogue between two different schools of educational sort of traditions. And then I had another gig at in Colorado, and then I came to LaGuardia.
Okay, Demi, with everything that's going on, did I miss the part where you said you were from? Are you Russian originally?
See, there you go. So I am from the former Soviet Union.
Right.
But I'm not exactly from Russia. Now, I'm from Uzbekistan, which is part of Central Asia. But because Uzbekistan was a part of the Soviet Union, right. I grew up, of course, speaking Russian and learning about the Russian culture.
All right. My colleague Lydia Khan in the photo area is also from Uzbekistan.
Oh,
though she is Korean, I guess you would say, ethnically.
Yes. It was a very, very multicultural city, or the whole space in Uzbekistan was very intercultural. So yeah.
All right. Kyoko, you want to take a shot at it?
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyoko Toyama. I'm a counseling faculty in the College Discovery program. It's under student services, but also I belong to a counseling department that still exists. So I'm a professor there, but in the same program that I'm working. I came here, I'm maybe one of the oldest one. I've been at LaGuardia for more than, let's say, 30 years. I came just fresh out of graduate school from counseling department. I was a graduate intern in the counseling department. And after that, I was ready to go home, but there was opening, and my former professor and a director, Richard Holmes, who actually passed away recently, he said, well, Kyoko, there's opening, why don't you apply? And, you know, coming from Japan, at the time, everybody believed in this sort of a lifetime employment, and I was still sort of not sure where I was going, because at the time my parents moved to England from Japan. By the way, I'm from Tokyo. So where am I supposed to go? Am I going home? Or what? There's nobody there. So when, you know, Professor Holmes said, why don't you apply? And I said, well, but, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And he said, well, think about it then. Don't even worry about it. And that's why I feel grateful for Rick Holmes for taking me in. But anyway, so I work for this program called College Discovery, which is for students who are financially, academically disadvantaged. I'm just trying to be careful with using these terms. But basically, students who whose average in high school has to be less than 80. Because, you know, a lot of people at LaGuardia, you know, they know me, and then they ask me, Kyoko, so what is CD? What is College Discovery? So just in a nutshell, the students also have to have a very high financial need. So they really start, what do you call this? Not disadvantaged, but with a lot of challenges. So from there, we provide personal, career, academic counseling, and we give extra financial aid and also tutoring. So these three components are benefits that students can receive. And after LaGuardia, these students go to any four-year college, pretty much, to continue this program. Some of you might have heard SEEK program in CUNY, EOP in SUNY schools, and HEOP in private school like NYU and Columbia. They all have this program. So our students who graduate, they can continue to receive these programs. But anyway, so I really love working for this program. So my background is in counseling. And again, that didn't exist in Japan. I was majoring in English and education in the college that I was going. But I always wanted to sort of live in a country where I can speak English every day. So what I did was when I was in college, even though I lived in Tokyo, I looked for this American family in the middle of Tokyo, and I stayed with them over the weekend and babysat their son, and I worked out of places that I was asked to speak English. So that was my main goal. It's not like I want to study this. I wanted to go somewhere I can speak English every day. So that got to me. And I was lucky enough to get financial support, scholarships. I went to a small state school in Pennsylvania. Then the rest, I mentioned to you, my parents moved. So I ended up sort of coming back. I spent a year in England, but I ended up coming back to New York. And then at the time, I was education major, and I said, in my final year in college, I was assigned to this peer counselor, the senior, who was checking me in every week. And I said to this, I still remember Melissa, she was graduating. She said, I'm going to grad school to study counseling psychology. So I said, what is that? And she explained to me. So when I graduated, I remembered it's a sort of combination of psychology and education. And here I am. I'm doing that, combining education and counseling. So that's how I got here. And my research interest is because of I think it's interesting, Olga and Olivera and all of us sort of come from other countries, all of us, right? So I really got interested in the cross-cultural counseling. And then when I was at Teachers College, that was the first program that really caught my eyes. And there were a lot of authorities who were teaching cross-cultural counseling. So, and then my current research interest is not only just cross-cultural counseling, but also women's development, psychological development, and also the biracial, bi-ethnic, sort of a cross-cultural upbringing of cross-cultural children in the family. So that's my research interest. But also, of course, I've been getting sort of research grants, fellowship about students' retention. Being in a student affairs, I always think about how I can really help students stay in school and graduate, right? That's all of you do. Everything we do is for retention and graduation. So that's my always a focus, because the more students we graduate, the more the mobility of these students and the family goes up. So I think that's enough for me now.
Yeah, that's a lot. But you know, you are the senior colleague, so you get little, and you kind of jumped into the next part of the show, but that's okay. We'll come back. Olivera,
Hello, guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Yes.
Can. Can't see. I can't see you, but maybe other people can.
I can, guys, see you all. Yes. My name is Olivera Stankovic, and I'm an adjunct lecturer from LaGuardia Community College, which I call home because that's my base. I teach for 3 colleges. I am fresh, new, 2 years. I came here a year ago, last year, and actually the person who hired me was one of our favorite colleagues who died, Dr. Louis Luca. We'll miss him dearly. He was the first one who interviewed me, and I received my offer, a job to teach public speaking, interpersonal communication, introduction to communication. But before, I used to teach. I still teach full-time, fully online classes for IVEC Community College in Indiana, where I used to live a few years. And before I moved to New York, and I still teach for them classes for English department right now. Before I used to teach for English and communication because I have 2 majors. I finished my master's in English and communication at CUNY, State University of New York in Potsdam, where I moved in 2007 from Montenegro. Montenegro, that's a small country located in southern Eastern Europe, close to Italy, Albania, Croatia, Bosnia. Used to be a former Yugoslavia, one of the 6 republics in Yugoslavia. And I moved here in upstate New York 2007. Before there, I finished my bachelor in English and literature, and I was an English teacher for 4 years. I was teaching high school, elementary school in the far north in the mountains in Montenegro. And my first job when I just finished my college was I was working as a PR assistant at the government of Montenegro. That was my first job. I was in politics, I was in journalism, and I was not happy about that job. I truly prefer teaching. So I switched and I started teaching again. And when I came to America, I did have desire to start going further. And that's how I decided to study English again and communication. It was a beautiful program. Doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. It's interdisciplinary. And my focus was semiotics. My thesis was interpolation and mass consumption and mass culture in American society from early 20s until now. And my favorite author was Theodore Dreiser. I don't know if you heard about him. He was famous for 3 books, Sister Carrie, Janie Gerard, and American Tragedy. They're all filmed on Paramount Pictures, all 3 of them. And one of them was Elizabeth Taylor, Under the Shadow. Very, very nice movie. So here I am. I started teaching last year, and then I found out about Olga. I actually didn't know her in person, but she sent an email about collaborative online international learning. And when I saw that email, I was not feeling well. I was sick that week. And I said to myself, this is something I always wanted to do. I knew about that mission in Europe 10 years ago. I knew about that, but I was thinking if I would like to be involved in this project one day. And then when I saw her email, I was sick that day. I still decided I didn't have Corona, thank God. It was a long time ago, before Corona came. And I was there. And because of the atmosphere and all these people and their beautiful presentations, they came from different colleges, from New York City, upstate New York, SUNY, CUNY together, and I was amazed. And that's the time when Olga approached to me and we clicked and we decided to cooperate. And since then, I've been doing COIL at the Humanities department, where Hugo and Jaime also teach. And I'm so happy I am doing these projects. Our students are actually waking up. I see a huge interest. They also want to even be volunteers. Later on, they want to be more involved in these projects. And that's how I'm here. I'm very happy to be part of your family. I still teach for 3 colleges because I'm an adjunct. I teach for NJCU, New Jersey City University, and still I teach for IVEC, English composition, and here at LaGuardia, that I proudly call my home.
And here at LaGuardia, what are the courses that you teach? I mean, you said you're in communications.
Yes, I teach public speaking, and Introduction to Communication used to be called Fundamentals of Speech Communication, and I implementing this COIL project for the same class, Introduction to Communication. I felt it really was matching very well, so that's why I'm proceeding with this Introduction to Communication, and I actually pairing my students. First time I was pairing them with the two colleagues of mine. Actually, one of them used to study with me, and we met 15 years ago. We didn't know until I said, "Oh my gosh, that's you." So I was very happy. She's the dean at one of the colleges, universities in Montenegro, Dragica Žugić. And then I also connected with another professor who is actually a cousin of my previous professor, who was teaching American literature. And then I included her. So we have three partners, Dragica Žana and I, and we have that virtual tourist handbook for students by students. That was our first project. We finished blogging on WordPress. And the second project, I was pairing my students' Introduction Communication class, HUC 101, with Dragica Žukić and her class from University Donja Gorica, third year of philology studies. Yeah. And it was amazing. They did a great job. And then we actually did about pandemics and the virus.
Yes. So let's hit the brakes, Olivera, because
yes,
I thought that Kyoko had gone deep into the second, but you're now practically at the end of the show. So why don't we? Yeah, I know, but I think we need to hit the audience up and me as well, because I'm the initial audience, and I kind of take the cues from the rest of my audience. So I mean, I was going to ask what everybody does at the college, but we're beyond that at this point. So let's back up to the question is like, exactly what is COIL? I'm going to let Olga take this one. So Olga, give us a kind of beginner's introduction to COIL. What is COIL?
So COIL stands for Collaborative Online International Learning.
Right.
And it usually involves 2 or more professors residing in different countries who are teaching courses. They could be in the same discipline, but they don't have to be. The idea is to create an opportunity for your students to engage with students in another country. So it could be, it's a curricular project that you develop. It usually lasts anywhere between 4 weeks to the whole semester. Students engage in synchronous and asynchronous activity. The goal is for students to sharpen their intercultural skills, to be able to empathetically and respectfully engage with peers, residing in another country, but to also collaborate. So the reason we adopted the COIL term, because this particular practice has different names, right? It really started in the foreign language instruction, and there it's called telecollaboration. So this was basically, 10 years ago or even more, when, as Olivera was saying, mostly in Europe, you had a lot of possibilities for students to virtually practice language skills, and through that also, sharpen their intercultural skills. But SUNY decided to kind of expand it into other disciplines, and because SUNY is neighboring with CUNY, and because we actually kind of aligned some of our work. For example, in 2016, CUNY hosted a SUNY COIL conference at the Graduate Center. So we were so neighboring, so we sort of automatically assumed the name COIL. But the more I was learning about it, I realized that it was actually a really good acronym for us, because it emphasizes collaboration, right? That's why you have that word, collaborative online international learning. So in addition to just sort of familiarizing students with how things are done in different cultures, you also have them work together toward a common goal. So they get to negotiate meaning. And when students go to a workplace, a lot of times they will be working with other countries, and they need to know how to do that. So it's a great opportunity for them not just to explore another country, which a lot of our students cannot do, because as you know, we don't really have a strong study abroad project program. I think not a lot of our students will be traveling just because they have a lot of obligations, right? They're working, they have families and so forth. So, yeah.
Is that, I mean, you're the coordinator of this. Were you did you bring this to LaGuardia? This
Yes,
whole
so,
program?
What happened was in 2016, when LaGuardia started engaging a lot with core competencies and global learning became, one of the major competencies. I was in an urban studies seminar, and I decided, and we had to develop an assignment, like an urban studies global learning assignment, and I started working on it. And because I had the previous experience in Russia, I really wanted to kind of create this active form of global learning. So instead of students actually reading about, how things are done in another country, I wanted them to interact with people. I wanted them to learn the story of another, country from the people residing in that country, rather than through American channels. And so I started thinking about it, and then I spoke with a few colleagues, and I saw that there were people interested in doing this kind of work. So I wrote a proposal for Howard Wack, who at the time was the director of Global Initiatives Office at LaGuardia.
Yeah, I remember.
He liked the project, and he said, let's pilot it. He said, you pilot it with another faculty member. I did it in fall 2016. And then in spring 2016, more people came on board. But I know that, and one of the people who came on board in spring 2016 was Kyoko with a few other Japanese instructors. So later, I found out from Kyoko that she actually did COIL without calling it COIL, even before 2016. So she had a partner of her own. Yeah, anyway, maybe Kyoko can add a little bit to that.
Yeah, so Kyoko, how did you find out? Was it an email, or did you just hear about what was going on? I mean, how did you end up joining, and why?
Oh, are you talking about a COIL that Olga brought in?
Yeah, what we're talking about now.
Right. No. What I meant was, Olga, do you remember Olga was just saying that I was already doing it, but
exactly.
I was not calling it a COIL.
What did you call it? What did you call it?
Well, it's an online virtual exchange.
That's what you called it?
Right.
That's the umbrella term, right? That's the umbrella term. It's everywhere. COIL is more associated with SUNY.
Yeah.
Right. It's the SUNY thing. Let me just ask you, for the COIL to be COIL, or to be whatever it is, it's always had the technological component.
Yes,
like that. It's always called for. There's some sort of.
It's a form of virtual mobility. So it's not really a substitute for study abroad or for physical mobility. It's just another way to allow students to travel, right?
Right.
In this case, it's
right.
Okay, but Kyoko, you were saying.
Wait, so virtual, but Olga was talking about a synchronized and asynchronized. So when we have our partners in Japan. So what happened was, one of the English instructors in Nagano, in the middle of Japan, was sort of searching any sort of partners in the United States. And by the way, he was born in Brooklyn. He moved around, but he's in this sort of a mid part of Japan. And he hit LaGuardia. Like when you're kind of Googling or something, he really found LaGuardia being very multicultural and very innovative. And I think he was right. And he reached out to Dr. Nagano in the ELA department to try to find a partner. So I was not the first person to do this, but basically for the Japanese program, right? Japanese classes. Then in the second year, I think, into their project, Dr. Nagano was looking for somebody, and I said, it's interesting. And it just so happened, Nagano is my dad's sort of home. My ancestors come from Nagano. So that really made me think about, wow, it's exciting. So, and then I contacted Justin, that's his name, Justin Berra. And so we started collaborating. And of course, everybody knows I'm not a tech person. So I had to really slowly learn it. But Justin was the opposite. He's a tech guru. So what he did was he just set up everything. So initial year, what we were doing was to tape our students' introduction and any kind of exchanges. And then I would upload to this called Slack, which is still very strong platform. A lot of people are using it, but
right now, a lot of folks are using it.
Yes, exactly. Right. But 5 years ago, it was not known, but also the features was very limited. So students would videotape and I will upload it, and then Justin will also share it. It's too much, but still that's where we were. And then slowly we changed the platforms to Flipgrid, and we also use the WordPress. One semester we're using Google Drive, and it's not just a platform, but also first thing was just listening and speaking. But you know, when you learn language, you have to have different components, right? Listening, speaking, and reading, and writing. And we focus on writing not so much at the time, but so we have been really revolving from just speaking and recording and listening and responding to peer critiquing now, because I included writing. So that was actually my idea. So Olga was talking about this negotiation. And by the way, I'm a mental health professional. I'm not a linguist, but because of this teaching of Japanese, I started to learn about how to engage students, and the COIL was just right. And you know, Olga also talked about the study abroad, and even you know, it's synchronized. It's very difficult because Japan, 13-hour different, 13-hour ahead of time. So we really have to be creative to engage with any possible, you know, platforms. So negotiation skills, I was just not a very tech person. I just listened, I followed Justin, but I don't know if you want me to talk about this past semester.
I do, but I want you to take a second because I got to do a station break.
Yes, okay.
So you're listening and watching LaGuardia Web Radio WLGR. The show is What's Going On. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez. And today we're learning about virtual international collaborations that are taking place every semester at LaGuardia as part of the Collaborative Online International Learning, or COIL programs. We're learning from the program COIL Coordinator, Professor Olga Aksakalova of the English Department, Professor Kyoko Toyama, who I just interrupted, of College Discovery and Modern Languages program, and Professor Olivera Stankovic of the Humanities Department's Communication Studies area. Sorry, I interrupted you, Kyoko. You wanted to talk about this semester as a kind of example? Kyoko?
Yes, I'm just,
Something
yeah,
happened?
because I wanted to sort of pick up what Olga was saying. It's not just the language learning. It's perfect, right? Students in Japan are learning English. Our students are learning Japanese. So it's great, but we really decided to bring in the writing, which was my idea. See, at the beginning, I was following Justin. Then I started feeling, wait a minute, and then COVID hit. And Justin wanted to bring this topic of, because after the introduction, we also have a discussion. And the discussion topic was each country's etiquette that are not very, you're not proud of. So here we are in the middle of the COVID. How can students talk about etiquette? So I had to not push myself, but I sort of presented to Justin, hey Justin, our students are dealing with this COVID every day. Some of the students' family have died. Can we change this topic to what do you call it? Empathy and compassion. And I sort of suggested, why don't we have students pick the photograph from the media or magazine or newspaper to talk about it, write the caption. So that was also interesting sort of evolvement that I was talking about. This is my 5th year now. So not only just bringing writing, but also that we are negotiating, faculty over there and myself, and the students are able to peer critique each other's writing. So the Japanese student who is editing or correcting their grammar instead of me, right? That's what I usually do. But students are doing it. And my students are correcting their English. And so it's a wonderful way of being confident because they know their language most of the time. And then at the end, we publish the final product. Of course, Justin and I, we look at and try to help to make it more professional looking. So that's where we are. And then even though I'm not a linguist, because of Olga's exposure, I participated in many webinars in the last semester, and I went to one of the very wonderful professor. I forgot the name, but he talked about
Robert O'Dowd. He was one of the founding fathers of telecollaboration. I
didn't know that, but he said we have to really just remove from tourist kind of presentation exchange. Oh, what is the favorite? What is the typical Japanese food? From there to negotiation skills, critical thinking skills, global learning. So I'm very appreciative of this exposure. It's not just the exchange, hello, this is my room. Oh, okay, so you have so much in common. To the level of more, critical thinking and negotiation. Because I told my colleagues here too in a presentation, Japanese students really don't think. It's not like they don't have the capability. They're taught that way. So my students are influencing. Hey, what do you mean? What is your government doing about this COVID? And the Japanese students says, I don't know. So again, even the presentation of this empathy and compassion with the photos, Japanese students started bringing the photos they took in a neighborhood where the sort of plastic thing is placed between the cashier and the student. So I'm really amazed how our program can be much more deeper than language learning. So I will stop there because I don't want to say.
Yes. So Olivera, we've caught up to you.
No,
and but so maybe you could talk a little bit about what you did with COIL this semester, or should I say the spring semester, right?
Spring semester, yes. In the spring
so what were you doing with your group?
I wanted initially we had a big project in our heads, but because the virus came out of nowhere, we thought we're going to make it now a mini project, but we wanted to push our students outside their comfort zone, and our initial project was to let them interview strangers on the street about New York City, why they're coming to New York City, and see how they're going to approach it, how they're going to sharpen their communication skills. But then we changed and we decided to do just about the virus. And it was students' perspectives on the virus and the crisis and how government in the United States approached this problem versus Montenegrin government. And it was a huge self-awareness and awakening from both sides. The students from Montenegro were so inspired by our students that decided to actually stay with my students. They were participating in every single class on Fridays in the morning, 6, thank God, versus in contrary to Kyoko's Japanese difference, we got lucky because we are 6 hours difference. They're 6 hours ahead of us. So their students finished, Dragica Žugić students from University of Donja Gorica, they actually finished their semester on May 8th, but they stayed with us. They worked with us on Fridays until June 12th. They were so inspired, and they will come and join our meetings. We have deep discussions about the virus and how they felt about the government. And it was totally different approach. In Montenegro, for instance, they had curfew, and in some parts of Montenegro, you literally couldn't go to grocery store. You had to stay in the house because it was epicenter of the crisis. You have to stay in the house. They had to come with the food for you to you, so you can't go and talk to people. So for my students from LaGuardia was like shocking. What are you talking? Where is freedom? But then they realized that the approach helped them a lot, and they eliminated the virus easier than us. But then my students also were so surprised with the nurturing of nature, because our students from Montenegro are talking about nature a lot, and how they appreciate that, and how they like their social activities. And when I saw reflections of my students about LaGuardia, they will say something that we didn't know so much. We just hear rushing too much, work home. And people from Montenegro, they just very much laid back, and they are working hard, but and yet they still they're not obsessed with future plans. Like we are here, we don't plan a lot. And they felt our students were so less stressful. And another interesting fact is that my students, for some reason, and maybe Olga, Kyoko can agree, maybe Hugo as well, that for some reason are resisting putting their cameras on, because it was very hard for them, this challenge to do COIL and plus. Everything has to be virtually. For all of us, it was a big shock, and plus technology challenges. So what interesting fact was that my students show up for the first time when we were doing synchronized session with Montenegro students. Everybody show up on cameras. So wow, this is amazing. I guess that curiosity about another world pushed them further, and they all were on cameras. I said, wow, guys, finally I saw your faces for the first time.
Oh, you're talking about your own students.
Exactly, my own students. They didn't even show up in the beginning. So when I said, on Friday, we're going to meet with students from Montenegro, they were so excited. And even though they were shy, they still decided to show up and introduce themselves. An interesting thing about introduction videos, because we had introduction videos from all sides. What Montenegro students did their videos, my students did their videos, and they had like 11 questions. They were so well. I was asking them, how come you knew about this recording? Because you don't have experience. Well, a lot of them did 9 times, 15 times, 20 times. They were recording themselves. Some of them never done anything in front of the cameras in their lifetime. So it was really, for me, such a huge experience, and for my students, they did something different, unusual, unique, and this project really helped them understand about themselves, about their identity, that they reinvented themselves, they shared experiences with their challenges with this virus, and it was something that nobody expected. They also wrote a lot. I told them 1 paragraph of each story to share. They did not just one, but essay, one by one, even poems. My students actually wrote a beautiful letter to Montenegro students as a welcoming letter to join our group. So we made a beautiful, even now they still continue. I go there here and there to check on them. They're still collaborating. Now, off the record, they're still
beyond
talking about the issues
experience
here and there.
Yeah.
They're sharing their nice positive stories as well, and they're making the friendship. Exactly. Yes, which
Olga.
is also a good outcome.
Yeah, it sounds like they're excited. So I would ask Olga, I mean, your role in coordinator, do you
Hello, can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you. You can't hear me? It looks like Olivera can't hear us. So Olga, well, let me type in. We can hear you.
Olivera, we can hear you.
She can't hear us. Oh, wait a minute. I'm trying to tell you. Yeah, we hear you. So Olga, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So you're coordinator, but do you also have a class which you're employing this? You were talking about the Russian one. So you want to talk a little bit about your experience with that piece at all?
Sure, but I just want to highlight a couple of things that were said before.
Right.
I think one of the things that I just want to highlight, because Kyoko initially was mentioning student retention and graduation, I think that COIL is one of those experiences that students will remember. I think that it really provides an opportunity for them to have a sense of belonging to the school. You know, I'll just give you one example. I was teaching COIL in one of my courses. It was a couple of years ago, the woman writer, and I had a student in my class. When I was introducing the COIL project, we were working with Brazil. We were looking at a Brazilian feminist writer, and I really wanted them to kind of have a perspective of Brazilian students who introduced the writer, and you know, they did a lot of blogging, a lot of analysis, and a lot of negotiation of interpretations. And through that, they really kind of learned, you know, what is racism like and what is sexism like in Brazil and the United States, but through that short story. So anyhow, at some point when I was introducing the project, one of the students had taken COIL before with Habiba Bumlik and Phyllis Van Slyke. And she said, oh, it's that same project. I remember it. Like, she was really excited about it. I think, you know, students do get, it's one of those signature things that they will take away with them when they leave LaGuardia. As far as my own work, yeah, I do it, you know, I do it in English 101 and English 102, so mostly composition courses, because in composition, we really try to give students an opportunity to write for different audiences. Just like in public speaking, you want them to orient their speeches, you know, to different audiences. It's all rhetorical. So it works really well there. I want to highlight also, so I did it in my English 101 in the spring semester, and I also thematized it around COVID-19. I want to say that 6 courses ran with all the challenges, Hugo. We were moving to distance learning, and I honestly did not put pressure on anyone, even though all these courses were initially sort of in the works. I sent an email earlier and I said, you know, if this is not going to work for you, that's fine. Like, we shouldn't do this if this is too much for you or for your students. And 6 courses ran. One of them ran right before the pandemic, but 5 of us did it during the pandemic, and a lot of us thematized it around the pandemic. So yeah, I did a very small project as well. Students, I connected my class with a school in St. Petersburg and also with a school in Arizona. So we were, you know, located in 3 different cities, all multicultural, you know, the Russian school and us, of course, more so than Arizona. And what students did, the first 2, they did an icebreaker where they talked about COVID-19 and how they're coping. They did some readings, common readings in different classes. And then we came together for a 2-hour Zoom session. And in that Zoom session, we had student moderators. That's another thing that we do in COIL. Students have a chance to be leaders. They have a chance to produce content, to moderate sessions, you know, to have some decision-making power in what we actually do. So we had met with the student moderators. We decided on the questions that they were going to ask. They moderated a good discussion about COVID-19. It was very comparative. And then the second part of the Zoom session, we broke them into small groups, and every group contained students from each of the universities, and they wrote collaborative poems. It was very much, you know, in the style of COVID-19 diaries, which was kind of happening in different spaces online from different people. So this was like, you know, student experience. And after that, my students expressed interest in sort of keeping this connection. So I started, this is the first kind of co-curricular iteration of COIL. I'm doing a book club this summer that involves my students from English 101 and the Russian students. And we're reading a lot of literature that's Russian and American, and we're doing discussions every week. So, yeah.
I forgot to add.
Well, hold on, because I just want to say to you that we're running out of time.
Yeah,
we have moved into the future, okay? And while you're at it, you should probably throw in any shout outs or thank yous or, you know, but go ahead, Olivera. What did you want to add?
I just wanted to say that we use also reading and interviews. I don't know if you heard about Yuval Harari. He's a famous philosopher.
No.
Yuval Harari, we used his interviews and their articles. He wrote a beautiful article about the world after the coronavirus. And that's how our students talked about that article and interviews, and we make them in groups. We go all of them together from Montenegro and New York City together, each 5 groups, and they discussed online with us on Zoom and also in writing. So it was very powerful collaboration. They did a great job with, and plus sharing their stories, so a good connection with that interview and the article.
So you're talking about the future of the world. What about the future of COIL?
I believe in the COIL.
Well, I mean, are you planning for next semester? Are you planning for
absolutely.
the fall?
Yes. We already paired. Already made a plan, and we already have a new topic: immigration and ethics in immigration and tourism, with connection with the virus crisis. And we are pairing. We now have 4 of us. One friend of mine who is now used to be my mentor and professor, Dr. Shah. She is from Potsdam State University of New York, where I finished my master, and Dragica Žana from Montenegro. So 4 different institutions we are going forward in the fall semester with the COIL.
Olga, you want to talk about other future COIL plans?
Yes. So I want to say two things. I mean, I do want to thank our faculty. We do have tremendous faculty. And I think part of the reason why COIL became so popular at LaGuardia, I mean, we started with 2 courses. Now we've had 32. We have 19 institutions worldwide that we work with. We have 15 very committed faculty members who re-engage in COIL, usually once they try it. It is a lot of work. There are a lot of challenges, which we can talk maybe another time. But it does require a lot of time, but we have really amazing faculty, and a lot of them are very globally oriented. So I think that, you know, it wouldn't have been as successful if not for our faculty. As far as the future, so a few things, Hugo. In addition to, you know, planning new COIL projects, next semester we're going to have a new discipline. We're going to have, so far we've had ELA, English, Humanities, Math, and Business. And next semester we're also going to have Social Sciences. We were asked to do a webinar for a school in India. And after this webinar, a lot of faculty members from that particular institution are really interested in collaborating with us. Our partner in Morocco wants to do a conference with us, which will be, you know, virtual. So I feel like COIL sort of opened up a lot of doors to the world for LaGuardia. You know, there are press releases being written about this work. So I just want to, you know, continue supporting faculty. We have a COIL task force, and Kyoko is a part of it. So, you know, we will be kind of figuring out ways of supporting faculty. There is a lot of also work going on at CUNY COIL. There is a CUNY COIL working group. So, yeah, I think, and one last thing I want to say about the future is, like, worldwide, right? There is a huge community of practice that's called virtual exchange. And now that physical mobility has been put on pause with the pandemic, a lot of people are learning about COIL, and a lot of institutions worldwide want to do it. There is some funding available, like the French embassy is now funding some projects. So I think there is going to be a lot of future for COIL.
Kyoko.
Yeah, so as far as my course is concerned, in the fall, I'm going to continue with Justin, and usually I teach 103, 104, ELJ, so upper level classes. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I used to also have a COIL with the 101, but there's so many students, we have to put in the groups, but we'll continue with Justin. But also, as far as the, sort of a COIL in general, in terms of future, like Olga said, study abroad is on hold everywhere. So, and all these institutions, higher education, they are really rethinking about, because Justin, my partner, told me recently, because he was ahead of the game. He was using a lot of online collaboration. Now the university's sort of asking him, his, you know, to share his sort of expertise and everything. But the old, you know, administration is very difficult to really embrace this. So, but I think it's going to happen. And also, I introduced one of the business professors, Ed Goodman, everybody knows, to Justin, because Justin is also teaching international business in addition to English conversation class. And also ELA, I'm an adjunct, but I'm talking a lot about the COIL. So I think Italian faculty, you know, the faculty who's teaching Italian, another Japanese instructor they're interested in. So I think my job going into 6th year is sort of the spokesperson, not just on a surface level. You know, Olga mentioned about this. There are wonderful things, but there are challenges. But overall, everything is relative, right? You learn through making sort of mistakes or overcoming challenges. So I think it's important to keep in mind, the point is engagement. How can we get the students engaged, and also to make them more global citizen without going to the country? So I think the COIL has got everything that, not everything I shouldn't say, but many of the things that we instructors, faculty are looking for in education, in coming. I'm sort of more re-engaged right now, moving into the 4th semester. Yes, and then let's actually get together, even though 13 hours difference, and we were able to get connected in a Zoom to say hello. But some of the students actually met and talked for 2 hours apparently. I didn't know. So there are really individual connections going on outside of the class. So I think it's a wonderful way to really get the students connected with the world.
We've got a couple of minutes. I don't know if anybody wanted to just thank anybody again before we say goodbye.
I want to thank Olga for bringing all of us together, because I have to tell you, Olga is not just a great teacher, but also she does have this sort of, I guess, universal skills of bringing people together. And I'm not talking about just us here at LaGuardia, outside of LaGuardia, also the overseas institutions. She makes you very special. And that's a key, actually, to make this COIL successful between the institutions. It's not about the project. It's about the relationship.
Yeah, I must add to Kyoko comment that Dr. Olga is, she is omnipresent. So if you need her help, you don't have to wait forever. So we have that connection, all of us so connected that as a real team players, that we help each other so fast and effectively that it's just hard not to be engaged in this type of activity. So it really, we are all inspired by each other. And that's why I like about COIL. It's a springboard. It's an eye-opener for all of us.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I want to thank Olga too for coming on the show, coming up with. I can't remember how we ended up doing the show, but she was very involved and wanted to have as many folks on as possible. We wanted to have a student on the show. That didn't work out for us, and even helped me put together some of the language that we'll use to announce this. So I just want to thank the three of you for joining me today and for this show. It's very informative. And so you've been watching what's going on. I'm your host, Hugo Fernandez, here on LaGuardia Web Radio, WLGR. And we've been learning about the virtual international collaborations that take place every semester at LaGuardia as part of Collaborative Online International Learning, or COIL program. And my guests have been the COIL Coordinator, Professor Olga Aksakalova of the English Department, Professor Kyoko Toyama of College Discovery and Modern Languages program, who's in the wind tunnel there, and Professor Olivera Stankovic of the Humanities Department, Communication Studies area. And I want to, this is the last show for this summer, and I want to dedicate it to Congressman John Lewis, who, as he said, if you see something, you got to say something. But he did more than that. He did things, and I think he took his last trip over the bridge in Selma this weekend on his way to the Capitol, where he'll lie in state. A great American, and that's we want to be like that. With LaGuardians, we want to be the people who see and say things. So thank you for joining, for listening. Dr. Riccio, take us out. Thank you very much.